Hello friends, welcome to the studio. For this video I'm doing something a little bit different and I'm working on a canvas. So I'm creating this painting for myself to put up in this new studio because there's a lot of blank wall space. But first let me explain how this art baby was conceived in my brain. So out of my all-time favorite TV shows, 2 of the top 5 are Buffy, as in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it's a tie between all the Degrassi shows of the Degrassi franchise. I'll try to spare you guys too much of my extensive Degrassi trivia knowledge and just let you know that this show in all of its different iterations is something that means a lot to me. So my piece centers on 2 characters, one from each of the shows I've mentioned. There's this guy from Buffy named Spike, and this girl from Degrassi also named Spike. I guess because they have the same name and they have similar hair and similar style, I've kind of always just wanted to throw them in a painting together. Recently, I have been rewatching Degrassi, sharing with my husband the joys of Degrassi. I've been Googling Degrassi stuff and I came across this photo of Spike and Liz, 2 characters from Degrassi, sitting in front of Degrassi Junior High back before it burnt down. Spoilers on a 30-year-old show. Anyway, I saw that Spike was doing this gesture. It's the British flipping off gesture, I guess, and I remembered that the other Spike, Guy Spike, is British, his character is, and he must have done that during the show, right? Right? Yes. So once I had these 2 photos juxtaposed and I knew they existed, I also knew that they had to become the basis for a painting. So instead of doing thumbnails or sketches in preparation for this one, I did what's called a photo bash. It's kind of like photoshopping, but a lot more quick and dirty. And it's specifically for use as a painting reference, so you know that you're going to be able to change things as you paint, so you don't worry so much about the edges and making it look realistic. For my photo bash, I took a picture of the canvas that I was going to use and put my photos on top of that so that I would know how they would fit. I used the picture of Girl Spike as the main image, and then I just replaced this character, stupid, judgy Liz, with Dude Spike. Get her, Heather. And for the most part, that was all I had to do. I wasn't sure at first whether I wanted them at Degrassi, and I even considered changing the sign to say Sunnyvale High School, which is where Buffy went, but I ultimately decided to make it easier for myself and use the environment that I had. You'll see later that I add to the environment to make more of a story for the piece. I also had to find a different reference for Girl Spike's face because the original was really low quality. The photo though that I am using is black and white, and that's going to present a little bit of a challenge when I have to add color. Also, anytime that you do a photo bash, there's sort of this issue where the different photos that you use won't be lit from the same angle, so you kind of have to take that into consideration too. Nevertheless, it's a really fun way to create a reference for a painting. So once the photo bash was done, I used it as a reference to create my sketch, which I do straight away in paint. I don't bother with putting pencil on my canvas because I feel like once I have some lines down, like pencil lines, then it affects the way that I approach painting. And instead of loosely creating shapes, I am filling in like a coloring book. I'm filling in the line work. So I just don't do line work at all, and I go in immediately with paint. For this one, I started out with a pretty big brush and some burnt sienna, and I just kind of laid down some rough shapes, and then I used a smaller brush with some burnt umber to define those shapes a little bit better. This takes a little bit longer than it would if I had some really definitive pencil work down, but I think that it's totally worth it for keeping an organic nature to the painting. This first painting session took about 33 minutes. For the next painting session, I took the painting off of the easel and sat down at my desk with it because I thought that that would keep me working on it longer, which it did, but it also presented some problems because, as you can see, the shadows in this video are atrocious. Sorry about that. I'm still learning how to light things. Also, having such a big piece at a horizontal angle like that meant that I was looking at it skewed, so I kept having to tilt it up, but it worked out okay for the session. As I record this, no one but myself and my husband has seen this painting finished. Yet, in talking about it, I've already had more than one person suggest to me that I make paintings of things that have a broader appeal. And I get it, because to fully enjoy this painting here, you would have to be a fan of an 80s Canadian teen melodrama and a 90s vampire show. And you'd have to particularly like these two characters from it. How many people are there in the world that would really be the key audience for this piece? Well, even if that's only a dozen people in the whole world, I would rather have those dozen people be totally stoked that this thing that's very unique to myself and to them exists than have 100 people just look at one of my paintings and go, that's nice. No one's out there doing a Google search for a vaguely nice to look at painting. They're looking for something that appeals to them and their specific taste, and the more specific, the better. There is a wonderful quote by David Bowie where he talks about his experience with this. And he illustrates another important point, that even for those who don't know the influence and the reasoning behind a piece of artwork, or in his case, a piece of music, the passion of the artist comes through. I feel pretty confident assuming that someone who has never seen either of these shows and isn't familiar with either of these characters would still enjoy this painting better than if I tried to paint like a random tree or something that I didn't have any strong feelings about. And hey, speaking of strong feelings, are you Team Angel or Team Spike? Tell me in the comments. You might think that I'm Team Spike because of the painting and all, and yeah, maybe a little bit, but I love them both. All the other vampire related shows and stuff where there's, that love triangle thing, I have a very clear winner. Like 100% Eric over Bill, 100% Damon over Stefan, 100% Bella should just be single. But between Spike and Angel, I've never been quite able to decide. By this point, I found a better way to work. I found my tabletop easel, and I have a t-shirt on it so that the light won't shine through the canvas as I work. I had some YouTube on. I was watching Drawing with Waffles. You can see it right there on the right. When I am working on a portrait that has quite a bit of background, like this one, I usually try to do a bunch of the background first because that's a little bit more boring, and I might abandon the painting if I did the faces in completion first. But at the same time, I don't want to get super far into a painting and then have trouble getting a likeness on the face. So what I did here was I roughed in the background, I roughed in the faces, and I worked on them just until I was pretty sure that I was going to be able to get them to look how they're supposed to look. The hands were such a struggle on this piece, and for Guy Spike here, it was largely because his actual hand is the freakiest looking hand I've ever seen. Even if I got it 100% photorealistic to the photo, it would not look right. It would look like I didn't know how to paint a hand. So I left both of their hands pretty rough until very far into the painting process. And right about here, my camera flopped over, but let's just pretend like I did that on purpose. It's so artsy looking. So at some point I started to become a little bit uncomfortable with the thing I had set up here. The fact that it's not even the high school, it's the junior high school, which means that Girl Spike was about 13 here. And yes, she did have a baby around that time, but still, she was very young, very innocent, and maybe shouldn't have been hanging out with a grown man, let alone a vampire grown man.
I think I'm gonna have a baby.
This is a joke, right?
No.
I mean, most vampire shows aren't really concerned with the age difference because the vampire is hundreds of years old. But there's still something uncomfortable about her being that young and just being friends with this guy or whatever. So I decided maybe he's more like that mischievous uncle. I don't know if everybody has one, but the uncle that pushes the pedals on Grandma's car because you can't reach them when you're 7. That one. And I've already spoiled for you guys that Degrassi Junior High did burn down. So maybe we changed the story of how that happened, and it had something to do with Guy Spike here. He's the mischievous uncle character to Girl Spike. Maybe Girl Spike is named after him even. And, he knew that she had a really hard year at that school, and so at the end of the school year, he gave her the gift of burning the school down. There was some mishap where I somehow forgot to hit record during the half hour or so when I first added flames into this piece, but there they are in the corner in white mapped out, and you'll see more of them later. I would like to thank my husband for doing some hand modeling at this point so that I could have an actual human looking hand to work from. The flames were really fun to paint, although ironically I was up late painting them while being worried about some fires going on in my area. I started painting the shapes of the fire in white so that when I laid the color in, it would be pure bright color. So while that white layer dried, I added more detail to the faces. I honestly could have kept going on this, could have gotten in there with much smaller brushes, gotten much closer to photorealism. But recently I've been thinking about balancing the value of having like a technically impressive piece versus having more pieces that are finished. And that's an area where filming my process has been really helpful because I'm not going to overwork a piece when I know I've got to get a video out for you guys. And so I make sure that there's a likeness here and that it's telling the story that I want it to tell. And I don't let myself worry about polishing it much further than that. And here comes the color on the flames. This part was really fun because I could just take like semi-transparent colors and just smear them all over, and where the white was, it was really bright color, and then everywhere around it was the light that it was casting. And having that cast light from the fire made a very unifying light for the whole piece, because like I was talking about earlier, when you make like a photo bash, there's not a unifying lighting. So I had to sort of invent that, and this was a really fun and easy way to go about doing that. And it's finished. I had a terrible time getting a good photo of this. This one that you're looking at is blown out and it has a glare on it, and none of those reds are actually that red in the painting, but that's what I got with the camera, because I have already told you guys I don't know how to light things. Perfect.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, love.
You're welcome.
But wait, there's more. I would like to thank Monica for participating in the autocorrect decides what you draw challenge. I don't know if that's the official title actually, but she did this masterpiece from the prompt Brush Kruger signing and high. And now I feel like the whole purpose of this channel has been fulfilled. So big thanks to Monica and to everyone who has made it this far in the video. Thank you for watching.